On the first day of Animatesmas, the Animates give to you this review of Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and I hope you like it, because it's probably the only day of Animatesmas, because it's about halfway through December as we record this, and we have nothing else planned. I think one is plenty, and I think this movie more than compensates for anything else.
I think so, yes. What an experience.
Ugh. So Martin was asked me if there was any Christmas cartoon or anything we should review in a similar fashion to our Thanksgiving special and Halloween special. And this is the first thing that popped into my head because Cartoon Network aired this ad nauseum around the holidays. And I think the damage it did to my psyche was irreversible. This is Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, based on the holiday country hit of the same name by renowned country superstar Uncle Elmo.
Uncle Elmo, was that his name?
I believe so. It's something along those lines.
Interesting. I'm also interested that this aired on TV, on Cartoon Network, because
Yeah, I think it was a straight to DVD, like just holiday cash in, and they had so many they just had so many rights to just various crappy Christmas cartoons. So needless to say, the Animates have material for years to come,
Oh,
just
excellent.
based on that. And this would be sandwiched often between The Christmas Dinosaur, which was a cartoon about two young boys getting a dinosaur egg that hatches on Christmas,
See,
and Christmas Comes to Pac-Land, which was the Christmas special based on the Hanna-Barbera Pac-Man cartoon.
that sounds fantastic. Why
Yes.
didn't we watch that one?
Maybe next year, or I mean, yeah, at some point. This is the one that sticks out so prominently in my head. Not only because of how often they aired it, but just because it is absolutely bizarre.
So I had never seen this before. I have heard Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer, and I've never really understood. I think I was aware that it was a song. I was not aware that it was any kind of film or animated
No.
special. And I said this to you moments before we started recording, but it feels it is equal parts brilliant and terrible. And it feels like the kind of Christmas movie I would write if I was given unrestricted access to make a Christmas movie and I was drunk and I thought this was a good idea.
You've been drinking too much eggnog.
Filled
Um,
with cram packed with musical numbers.
uh, all country, all sung by. Is it Elmo? His name is Elmo something. I'm beginning to second guess myself on the title of Uncle Elmo. Elmo. Dr. Elmo. Where did I get
Oh well.
Uncle Elmo? I don't think this man has a doctorate.
I don't believe that man's ever been to medical school.
um, he's the narrator of the film as well as singer of all the musical numbers.
All the musical numbers. I assume not the one that the bad guys sing about.
No, I
So
think
we
we
didn't
should
do that one.
get. I wanted to save that. Let's get to that one. I don't want to bury the lead on that.
So what is, for people who have never seen the film, the premise of this film? One of the many premises of this film are Grandma owns a department store in the middle of the Twin Towers, and, and a rich businessman tries to convince Grandma to sell her department store, in league with wicked Cousin Mel, who may or may not be their cousin. It's never really clarified. They call her Cousin Mel.
She
No
just
one
showed
seems
up
to
one
like
day.
her. Yeah. Then Grandma gets, as the title implies, run over by a reindeer and disappears. She gets amnesia. Her grandson has to go and find her because the evil cousin and the rich businessman's lawyer are trying to get Santa convicted of a hit and run so that they can convince the amnesia-riddled grandma to sell the department store to the rich guy. And there's a
Got
court
all that?
case. Grandpa has a mental break because he thinks that his wife is dead. I think that's most of it. That's most of the film.
Oh, I think that's most of it. That riddled saga. What surprised me about this movie is that it's less than an hour long, but it always felt like full length to me as a kid. Probably because number one, I watched it with commercials, and number two, there's like 18 plot points as you just described in this 45-minute Christmas special.
18 plot points and 18 different characters that we have to follow for most of the film.
There's factions. There's people with all different conflicting motives.
There's a mother, there's a father, there's a grandma, there's a grandpa, there's two sisters possibly, the grandson,
just
Santa,
one sister,
the lawyer, the cousin, the reindeers, Mrs. Claus,
the district attorney,
the businessman. I think that's everyone.
So we start at the department store. The grandma character who runs the department store actually like pretty charming in her own right as far as like wholesome grandma characters go.
Sure, she's standard grandma material.
Yeah, she's no Pat Carroll as Grandma Arbuckle in Garfield.
Who amongst us is Pat Carroll in Garfield?
Yeah, that's a top tier cartoon grandma.
It is.
Cousin, we were introduced to their name is Spankenheimer, Grandma Spankenheimer, and the kid is Jake Spankenheimer, whose wardrobe. Well, they live in Cityville, so who knows if this is Midwest, East Coast City, West Coast. There's snow.
I have a theory about this.
What's your theory?
Which is that the movie was originally set in New York, which is why Grandma's department store is between the Twin Towers. And so sometime in production, 9/11 happened, and someone was like, "Oh my God, we've already got all the animation finished. We can't back out of this now. Change it to the most bland, generic title for a city you can possibly think of." And someone was like, "Cityville." I love it.
As badly as I want to abide by that theory, this came out on Halloween 2001.
Halloween 2001. That's.
Wait, no, I'm sorry, 2000. I misspoke.
Oh, I was going to say that would have proven my theory.
Yes, I'm sorry. That's me being a jerk. 2000.
Oh, how disappointing.
Yeah.
I don't. Well, is it? I don't know. But how disappointing.
Good point, actually.
Not how disappointing that. Let's move on from 9/11. So yes, we're introduced to Cousin Mel, who I keep wanting to call Cousin Merle, from The Simpsons.
Honestly, kind of a fun like villain for a grandma got run over by a reindeer. I could see us like kind of developing a small Stan Twitter cult following around her.
Her hair is offensively bright. Every time she was on screen, like my eyes were aching from having to look at it because it's just like fluorescent orange.
It's how you know she's evil.
I guess so.
All her dialogue really just kind of stands in my mind. I hate the feeling of Christmas and all this caring and sharing. I think that was in like all the commercials when this was going to play. So that's just like bits of dialogue that really stand in my mind.
My favorite bit of dialogue from the opening is when what's the business guy called?
Austin Bucks.
Austin Bucks. I know he had a good name. I couldn't remember it.
Yeah.
I wanted to call him Tex Richmond, but that is the.
That's the Muppet movie.
That's the Muppet movie.
Yeah.
But he comes in and he tries to buy the store, and he's like, "People are too busy for Christmas these days. What with their cellular phones and fax machines." Very much dated the film.
I like Austin Bucks' character archetype of like well-meaning capitalist businessman. Like that's always been a trope that tickled me because like he's not cackling and evil like Cousin Mel, like he just kind of cooperates. Because I feel that's almost more indicting of like capitalist ventures because they're just like, I'm just doing the right thing by robbing everybody of their business.
It is weird that the businessman who wants to buy the store isn't the villain in the film.
Right, he's just bizarre. He's just kind of a catalyst. He's almost a weapon for Cousin Mel.
Yeah, like I really feel like if this was any other film, there would be like a really sort of like a mustachioed businessman who looks a bit like dastardly, who would come in and be like, "I'll buy this department store if it's the last thing I do," and then he'd have a villain song straightly afterwards. He would divulge his plan to buy the store and his hatred of Christmas.
I think one thing is an element that plays into that is that Cousin Mel is a named character in the Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer song.
Oh, I see.
The song, like the second verse of the song says like, we're all very proud of Grandpa, he's been doing very well, is something something watches football and copes by playing cards with Cousin Mel.
Ah. See, from that
So I
song, I
wonder
would have imagined Cousin Mel as like an old guy that plays cards with Grandpa,
exactly.
not like a feisty redhead who's trying to seduce a rich businessman.
I think you're exactly correct. I'm willing to wager that was Dr. Elmo's original intention before the filmmakers wanted to sculpt the character into the villain of the piece, if you will. Um, this takes us to, I guess this film has a very pro-traditionalist agenda in that a lot of it is spent on like um, just kind of boomer comicking modern Christmas traditions. Like there's a whole thing about how the Spankenheimer family gets an inflatable Christmas tree, and Jake is like, "Oh, but we usually get a real tree." And like the idea is that people are losing Christmas spirit because they don't want pine needles in their house.
I love the inflatable phallic Christmas tree. One of my favorite scenes in the movie is when the father blows up the giant penis in his living room.
Where did you get this?
I was just watching it like, oh, that's an interesting design for the top of the tree.
Oh, that's one way to get on the naughty list.
Hi-oh!
Oh, Grandma, it always confuses me. It's Christmas Eve clearly, and Grandma still has decorating to do, and that's a plot point as well. Well, you only have a few hours left, Grandma. I think you should just let it go.
You know what? My favorite part of this movie is the song about the fruitcake.
Yes.
By far the best musical number in the film.
Enough to give the whole state of Kentucky a great big belly ache.
I can't remember the lyrics to any of the songs, but I remember sitting there for this one going, "Oh, this is pretty good." Good animation.
I ate real fruitcake for the first time this year.
Oh, really?
I can see why it would be abrasive to many, but I like take pride in my bizarre palate, so I got used to it.
I don't think I've ever had fruitcake.
Yeah, I don't know if it's like for a long time I wondered if it was even really a thing, but King
Does it
Soopers had some form of it.
Can you put it through the mail? Because they receive it in a parcel in this one.
Right. I feel like it would last okay for at least a little bit because it's very sturdy.
Mm.
Yeah. Um, this takes us to Grandma was up late decorating with Jake because no one would help, and that leads to her leaving the house during I think a bad snowstorm, something to that effect, which is where she gets hit by the reindeer. And what leads to this is like a pseudo musical number of the original song, but the only interaction from the characters being them repeating the lyrics in normal dialogue and reenacting it. So it'll go like, she's been drinking too much eggnog, and the dad will go, you've been drinking too much eggnog. And we begged her not to go. Don't go. We're begging. But she forgot her medication. I forgot my medication.
We forgot to explain the reason why she gets hit by the reindeer.
Yes.
Another crucial plot point in this
Crucial
very
as it is
cerebral story.
convoluted.
Yes. So she is hit by the reindeer because Cousin Mel puts reindeer nip into her, is it cookies that she's baking?
The fruitcake.
Her cake. Yes, with the fruitcake, of course. And the reindeer is attracted to it and just knocks her over. Which is a crucial plot point later in the film when we go through the trial segments. So bear all this in mind.
Do you think the reindeer nip was at the same store as the phallic inflatable Christmas tree?
I can only imagine that it was, yes.
The same one stop.
The one
This
at the
guy only
World,
sells two things.
the Christmas store based at the World Trade Center.
Yes.
I can imagine. There was no other stores around there. It was just that one. It's got to be nearby.
Well, who's going to want to muscle in on his business of phallic Christmas trees and reindeer nip exclusively?
Donald Trump?
Yeah. I have the best reindeer nip. Other reindeer nip, it wouldn't even attract a hit and run murder, but my reindeer nip is the best reindeer nip.
We got Grandma here, the great Grandma. Get her up here. Get her up. No, get her the hell out of here. Get her the hell out of here. I don't know what
who do you think would win
between those two things.
who do you think would win a lawyer off between Rudy Giuliani and District Attorney I M Slime?
Was it slime or was it slime?
Slime.
I heard
slime.
slime.
Yes. It's slime with an M, definitely.
Oh, I see. Yes. I thought you might have said slime. I thought it was a
I might just be.
I was giving them credit for.
So, yeah, that's my tongue doing its thing. So in
definitely
in the original,
going back to your question.
Yes.
Who has a finer legal mind than Rudy Giuliani?
Melting on the spot in public.
Your Honor, I have here 5-star witnesses. Each of them saw Grandma knocked over by the reindeer.
It's
woman who's just like, I was crossing the roads and saw Rudy. He saw him across, and then she just pass out halfway through. Your Honor, I'd like to invite my next 5-star witnesses.
I just picture the Lionel Hutz's surprise witnesses from The Simpsons, where it's like the twins on the motorcycles and like Ralph Wiggum. So yes, Grandma got hit. This is all an elaborate, ostensibly murder plot, but they kind of skirt around that notion too.
Yes. Did Cousin Mel intend to? No, she didn't intend to kill her, did she? Was it that she wanted people to just not enjoy Grandma's cake, so the store would go downhill, so that she could then sell it? But then, if the store wasn't making a profit, how was she going to sell it to the businessman? Because he wanted it because it was successful.
Well, you see, one thing excuse me.
Mr.
I think so.
Like I felt like the guy from Cinema Sins. Cousin Mel tries to poison the fruitcakes. Why would she try to do that? Because she was trying to sell the store. Ding!
So, the impression I get is that she wanted to kill Grandma. But when they get Grandma in her log cabin, the smart thing to do in those circumstances would be to kill her. But this is a kid's movie, so they don't. Meaning the only explanation would be she knew Santa would take it upon himself to take the amnesiac Grandma back to the North Pole, which I don't think she would possibly know.
Cousin Mel is playing 4-dimensional chess. She knows every move everyone is going to make.
She is 5 parallel universes ahead of us. Which also means Cousin Mel knew Santa was real if she knew Reindeer Nip. Because it's a thing in this that not everyone necessarily believes in Santa. Like, that's a whole thing.
Maybe
so Cousin Mel...
She knew there was reindeer nearby.
Oh, that would kind of make sense. Because their house, despite Grandma's business being in a metropolitan city, is just in the middle of buttfuck nowhere.
Yeah.
So there could very well be caribou to some degree in those woods. lot of logistics to this film.
There is. Once you start peeling those layers back, it's a very it's a complex endeavor.
Indeed. Um, so there's a
So
Jake
yeah,
is mourning the.
grandma is we've glossed over the highlight of the film here, where grandma is face down in the snow like it's a fucking true crime documentary, and her cup perfectly like facing upward, unmoved, and her glasses discarded.
Doing just fine.
Yeah, she's dead. That's the note that the film starts off on. The pre-credit sequence is just her face down in the snow. It's like an
They don't want you to like
mystery.
sit down. They want you to sit down, see a different opening, and be like, "Oh, this isn't about grandma getting hit by a reindeer. I've already bought this straight-to-video film, and I'm going to return it."
Well, that's true. You don't want false advertising.
Oh. um. So it's revealed Santa takes it upon himself to heal Grandma, taking her in his sleigh back to the North Pole and leaving a note. Because when you ostensibly kill someone and take it upon yourself to help them, you just calmly and flippantly leave a note. He's very cavalier about it.
So what happens here? Because I can't remember. What happens to Grandma after she gets hit and she's face down in the snow?
So, Santa takes it upon himself to take her back to the North Pole, which is where she recovers but has amnesia from the hit. And he leaves a note which Cousin Mel finds and hides to further implicate the disappearance of Grandma.
See, I completely missed this when I was watching it. I don't know why. I must have tuned out for this part of the film because I have no memory of what happened here.
Well, this is revealed shortly after Grandpa has his musical number in which he signs away his dead wife's business. So I wouldn't blame you if that just took all of the energy out of you.
Grandpa's descent into madness.
Or most pitiful character in this film, his wife. First of all, he's the only person besides the kid who sees the event occur.
Yes.
They're both like, Grandma got hit by a reindeer and no one believes them. So he's convinced he's going insane as Cousin Mel takes him to dinner in what appears to be the Space Needle. Yeah. And she goes, it's the best lead into a song I've ever seen, where she goes, will you sign the rights to me? Sure, I'll sing. So sign. I'd rather sing. And then we go into a musical number about Grandma being dead on Christmas.
And hanging out with celebrities in heaven.
Yeah. I mean, good for him if that's his coping mechanism, that Grandma's going to hook up with Elvis, then he feels okay.
Yeah. Well, it was him as Elvis. So that's an added layer to his growing insanity.
Yeah. Guys, yeah, there's a lot of layers to peel back here. Like, I wonder if that's like a twisted cry for help, that he wants to join Grandma in the afterlife dressed as Elvis.
That was how I interpreted it. Yeah. He had enough of life at that point.
Ugh, poor guy. That leads to Jake being home invaded by Santa's top elf, who takes him to the North Pole, which is where they discover amnesiac Grandma being nursed back to health by Santa.
Yes. Arguably, this is where the film jumps the shark. Arguably, because it could happen at any point during the film. But I think this is the point where it was like halfway, and it really escalates from this point onwards. Like, it's just a blur to me, the second half of this.
Well, it's a very complex plot to be fit into 45 minutes. They return to Cityville with Grandma, trying to advocate for her presence, that they can't sell the business and that she's fine, which leads to the introduction of I Am Slime, which is Cousin Mel's attorney, and maybe lesbian lover.
I believe, not the. Isn't it the rich guy's attorney, not the not Cousin Mel?
No, she's Cousin Mel's attorney, and I'm only correcting you on this because I've watched this film many times.
I see. I thought that might be the case when I first watched it, but I thought, where is Cousin Mel affording this high-powered attorney?
It's true.
And why does she need this high-powered attorney? Because if it was like the rich guy, I could understand why he had brought his lawyer in to help him like buy this franchise. But if it's just Cousin Mel, it's extremely suspect that she suddenly has a lawyer.
I like to think they're just buddies too, because they make a very good, just like villainous pair. Maybe they were like college roommates.
They do have a song.
They do have a song. Grandma's gonna sue the pants off of Santa. You know the law is on his side. Just,
their fruit salad
just,
hats.
just girly things, singing about murdering your grandmother in a calypso styling.
So yeah, that's the villain song of the film, which is very
We should, if we ever meet in real life, I hope we have a calypso number with fruit salad hats.
next against a technicolor background where we're just floating in floating in a void.
If we hit 1 million subscribers, I will fly to the UK, bring a green screen, and 2 fruit salad hats. And then as soon as we're done filming, I'll leave. I'll be like, well, we did it.
I've put down in my notes around this point. I've just written Santa's horrible sounding laugh, and I think this is because he doesn't do a ho ho ho. He's just like and he always sounds very sick for some reason. It's really sort of hoarse and exhausted sound. I guess he's
there's some very bizarre choices behind this Santa. He wears a tracksuit. I guess that's a choice. Gosh, yeah. I guess the idea is that since people don't seem to believe in him anymore, he's getting kind of run down and exhausted. They don't really run with that.
Well, he's shortly after this, he just gets embroiled in a court case for murder. So it's not a good time for him all around.
No. On the topic of that court case, there's also that great minor district attorney character. Do you know who I mean?
Yes, I believe I do.
There's this guy who's unbiased and unaffiliated and seems to just be like, do I want to see Santa Claus go to jail? Personally, no. And then he references the O.J. Simpson court case. Yes. He goes, if the beard fits, you must convict.
Yeah. He was one of my favorite characters in the film. Really,
there's this sorry, go on.
Just the animation on his face and his like incredulous expressions. I thought were quite
He's the one guy who hasn't been here all along and just can't believe this shit.
Yeah, he's the superintendent Chalmers of this film, just exasperated all the time.
There's this great line delivery, again, because I've seen this so many times, I've always pondered, where Jake is like, my dog has the last piece of evidence, and the dog runs in, and the district attorney goes, what? I object! Which, like, sounds like how you would say it if you're being strange. But I think it was intended as, what? I object, and the voice actor just flubbed it, and they ran with it.
Yeah, only did the one take. Do you want me to do that one again? No, we don't have time.
And there's also just how vindicated he is at the very last second as he goes, arrest this woman for ruining Christmas. Like, he's so glad he gets to be on the right side.
Yeah. Speaking of the courthouse stuff, did you see the signs from the protesters outside?
Remind me.
So it's like a Simpsons level gag where there's these protesters with placards and things outside the courthouse, and I was trying to note down what some of them said. One of them says "coal for the DA," and another one says "ho ho hoax."
That is the thing about this movie is I'm having such a hard time telling how much of it is like completely genuine and like there's definitely a small sector of people having fun with how ridiculous it is, and that's how you get great details like those.
Yeah, I think so. It gets some good gags in there, despite the very bizarre story.
Yeah, there's a lot of corn in there. Like there's the very slow meaning of Christmas song while we're flying in the sleigh. We gotta remind people that this is still not unironic. But I think they're still like just find ways to be like, well, if we're gonna have a musical number, we might as well make it a calypso villain song.
A lot of people get musical numbers. I was expecting one at the trial.
That'd be
Every
wonderful.
character seems to get one at some point.
This strikes me as something that a lot of content was cut from. I wouldn't be surprised if it was maybe originally supposed to be feature length and they had to remove some chunks.
Maybe there's deleted scenes. You must find
Release the Snyder cut.
Release, release the Cousin Mel.
We'll remake it. The Cousin Mel cut. I could see it now. Ken Marino is the defense attorney. I think Scarlett Johansson would be a good Cousin Mel, equally despicable.
Can't think of any other casting for this film.
Who
would be Grandma?
Grandma. Gosh, I'm blanking. Old ladies.
I can't think of any old lady actresses that are still working.
I could see Finn Wolfhard as Jake Spankenheimer in his bowling shirt.
Yeah.
Why not? Swearing up a storm.
I really can't think of any old people.
Gosh. We could always just get Pat Carroll. She's already the best cartoon grandma.
I guess so, yeah. Get her back in.
Yeah, we can just roll with that.
She's still going. Her or Betty White. Betty White is the only other old.
Oh, that'd be fine.
Cousin Mel actually reminds me of Blanche from the Golden Girls. Like her delivery of lines and her accent and the whole persona.
Oh, I could totally see that. I love sorry, could have had.
I was going to say you could have had like all the Golden Girls actresses as roles in this film. I think B. Arthur could have been Slime, and then Grandma.
I also love just her line delivery. She's like, I tried to ruin Chris. I tried to. She's confessing to all the crimes. I tried to kidnap Grandma, and she goes, I'm behind this evil plot. That is the best. Very Blanche, very good. I also feel like she
imprisoned Grandma in a cabin in the woods.
Gosh, I feel like maybe she went on to like in prison. She got very depressed and jaded and gained an exorbitant amount of weight and changed her name to Aunt Fig and got a new lawyer.
The Aunt Fig
became. I don't know how those timelines add up, but I think it holds water.
Christmas is such a beautiful thing.
Oh, God.
I find I use it for everything.
Money.
We've got to have Christmas.
God's little creatures. Have you seen the trailer for the new Tom and Jerry with Chloe Grace Moretz?
I've resisted watching it.
I don't think it's like there's definitely some very like Smurfs tones in there, if you know what I mean. But I think ultimately, if it's just like Tom and Jerry slapstick, but in a hotel, I could actually kind of get behind that.
Does it have Aunt Fig and Mr. Lickboot making their live action debut?
Okay, that's a challenge. Melissa McCarthy as Aunt Fig, perhaps.
That's actually very good casting.
Yeah. She's going to be Ursula. They've locked it in.
Oh, they've locked that in,
Yeah.
I can see her expressions matching Aunt Fig's perfectly, though, because they're very exaggerated characters.
And who's Mr. Lickboot? Jeez.
Stanley Tucci.
Yeah. And John Lithgow is Dr. Applecheeks.
Brilliant.
Ugh, what have we created?
Have we finished? Have we gotten to the end of the film?
Pretty much. The last plot beat is kind of a wah wah ending where Santa flies off. On Donner, on Vixen, on the rest of you. And then Grandma accidentally opens the reindeer nip cake again and gets run over once more as we play out to the theme song, implying that they just have to go through this all again.
Perhaps is it just a constant loop and this is their lives?
It's just, it's like Dark Side from Dark Side. He can like lock people in an alternate dimension where they experience increasingly excruciating deaths.
Increasingly excruciating Christmas specials.
This really is the Snyder Cut.
Hi-oh!
Hey-o!
So, would you recommend Grandma Gets Run Over by a Reindeer? Would you recommend it to Cousin Mel if you went to visit her in prison and she was like, they only give us one movie per Christmas. I don't know what to watch. I don't know why she's speaking like this. If she was in prison, she was dying to watch something cheerful, but she hated Christmas. Would you hand her a copy of this film, or would you instead give her the horror masterpiece Krampus?
I'd say, Cousin Mel, since you hate Christmas, fun tidbit is that this film barely takes place at Christmas. It's mostly over the year between the two Christmas occurrences in which Grandma is run over and recovered. So perhaps it will be a refreshing drink of water. And perhaps you too can bizarrely stand this nameless defense attorney character.
Was that a yes or a no? Where did we go with that? Would you recommend it?
It's hard to say because it's a fragment of my psyche that I've grown up for so many years that I can't imagine a world without it. And yet I'm at something of a loss for true qualities outside of just kind of ripping on it, to tell you the truth.
I think I would recommend it. Bizarrely, because it isn't good, but at the same time, it is brilliant. So I would recommend you watch it.
I think 2 eggnogs deep, it is a good thing to have for a laugh. Well, that was Grandma Got Run Over by a Reindeer. And now, Martin, I'm going to cap my canteen of eggnog, which I've had too much of, forget my medication, and walk out into the snow.
Okay, we'll see you next year.
See ya.
Anyway, back to 9/11.
Ow! I've been hit. I'm bleeding. Call the defense attorney. Call my lawyer.
What? I don't know.
Wait, he's taking me. He's writing a note and he's taking me. Don't let him do this.